We tend to think of global trade as a boundless network of open oceans, where massive ships have infinite space to move. But the reality is that the modern energy economy is forced to slam into a harsh, highly restrictive physical geography. This is the Strait of Hormuz. It sits right between Iran and the Musandin Peninsula, and it serves as the solitary aquatic exit connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. When you measure the distance from the northern coast of Iran to the southern tip of the peninsula, the entire waterway narrows to just 21 miles across. Every single day, roughly 20 million barrels of crude oil are forced through this tiny geographical window. That is 20% of total global petroleum consumption, packed into a space you could drive across in about 20 minutes. Alongside the crude, you have 1/3 of the world's liquefied natural gas squeezing through. Unlike oil, which can sit in storage, LNG relies on highly sensitive, just-in-time supply chains. A fifth of the planet's oil and a third of its natural gas depend entirely on this specific set of coordinates. The stability of the global energy supply literally dangles by a 21-mile thread of water. This region was formed when the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates collided. The impact fractured solid rock, thrusting the jagged peaks of the Musandam Mountains up from the ocean floor and tearing open a volatile channel. That geology created a uniquely hostile environment for navigation. The strait is plagued by unpredictable ocean swells, extreme underwater noise pollution, and thick summer dust storms that severely reduce visibility. To keep ships from constantly colliding in the haze, authorities implemented a strict traffic separation scheme. Inbound and outbound vessels use designated lanes just 2 miles wide, separated by a 2-mile buffer. Now, picture a fleet of very large crude carriers, ships over 1,000 feet long, navigating these exact strips. The margin for error is microscopic, and they aren't alone in those strips. Satellite tracking shows that the world's second-largest dugong population and migrating whale sharks travel directly through these exact same shipping lanes. Long before you factor in international rivalries or military blockades, the raw anatomy of the strait forms a naturally treacherous trap for global trade. Ancient sailors actually called this passage the Gate of Peace. 4,000 years ago, it served as a vital trade corridor for merchants moving copper, ivory, and lapis lazuli in wooden dhows. As global empires expanded, they recognized the mathematical advantage of this bottleneck. The Portuguese arrived in 1507 to build fortresses and collect taxes on passing cargo, and the British eventually followed to secure their own commercial monopolies. By the 20th century, the cargo shifted to petroleum, bringing modern warfare with it. During the 1980s, the passage became an active naval battlefield between Iran and Iraq in what became known as the Tanker War. The lucrative commodities traded here have changed from lapis lazuli to crude oil, but global powers have spent centuries fighting over these exact same irreplaceable coordinates. Today, controlling this passage doesn't require a physical naval blockade. The flow of ships is heavily dictated by the invisible hand of maritime insurance. The strait is officially designated as a high-risk area. When military tensions rise, insurers spike war risk premiums to 0.4% of a ship's hull value. For a $150 million supertanker, that adds $600,000 in extra costs for a single crossing, quickly making trips financially unviable. To escape this vulnerability, Saudi Arabia and the UAE built overland pipelines, attempting to create a Plan B infrastructure that bypasses the strait entirely. This chart shows the hard mathematical limit of that bypass. The pipelines have a combined maximum capacity of roughly 9 million barrels a day. The world needs 20 million. That leaves an 11 million barrel deficit that has no alternative but water. The global economy is mathematically trapped. No amount of capital or alternative pipeline infrastructure can fully bypass this specific body of water. When political tensions escalate into physical events, like an armed naval intercept or a drone strike, commercial shipping companies simply suspend transits through the region. Looking at this maritime map, the immediate consequence of avoiding the strait is clear. Fleets are forced to divert entirely around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. Rerouting around an entire continent adds weeks to transit times. That creates an immediate supply chain shock for import-dependent economies, particularly India, which relies heavily on Middle Eastern crude and gas. The macroeconomic impacts hit fast. Maritime freight rates skyrocket. The national current account deficit widens under the pressure of higher fuel prices, and critical shortages emerge in the supply of LNG and LPG. Those abstract economic metrics quickly translate into civilian reality. A naval conflict thousands of miles away results in local restaurants shutting doors and citizens waiting in line for basic cooking fuel. We tend to view the modern global economy as a highly advanced, digitized network that transcends the physical world. But world prosperity remains utterly hostage to a 21-mile strip of water. Geography is destiny.